The moment Jacob Thornton rode into the Hartwell clearing, the entire place seemed to stop breathing. Folks had been whispering for days that he was coming to choose a wife, and everyone believed he would pick Lily Hartwell, the younger sister, the beauty of the family. But when Jacob stepped down from his horse and swept his gaze across the yard, something unexpected happened. His eyes did not stay on Lily. His attention did not linger on her smile. Instead, his gaze moved past her and settled on the sister nobody ever noticed, the one without ribbons, the one with a limp, the one everyone assumed would never marry, Sarah Hartwell. That single look from Jacob shook the Hartwell world in a way none of them were ready for. Wyoming Territory, spring of 1857, was a hard and unforgiving place. The last snow had just melted off the mountain passes, leaving the ground wet and the rivers swelling with cold runoff. The old Hartwell trading post, once the pride of the region, was now leaning toward ruin. The porch sagged. The roof leaked in 3 spots. The shelves inside were going bare. Widow Margaret Hartwell was fighting a battle she knew she was losing ever since her husband froze to death 3 winters before. Inside that crumbling world lived her 2 daughters. Lily, just 22, moved through the frontier as if she had stepped out of a city ballroom. Her golden hair and bright blue eyes drew attention everywhere she went. Even rough trappers forgot their manners when she smiled. She always dressed her best and carried herself like she knew exactly how beautiful she was. She used that beauty to survive in a place where charm could buy what money could not. Sarah, 4 years older, lived in the long shadow her sister cast. A dark birthmark colored her left cheek. A rattlesnake bite from childhood had damaged the muscles in her right leg, giving her a permanent limp. Her hair was plain brown. Her dresses were patched and practical, meant for work, not admiration. Lily was admired. Sarah was depended on. Sarah kept the books, prepared herbs, smoked meat, mended clothing, organized supplies, tended the root cellar. She handled the work that kept the trading post alive from one season to the next. People rarely noticed her, but the post would have collapsed long ago without her. Margaret loved both daughters, but she was practical in a way the frontier forced upon her. The post was dying, debts were growing, supplies were running thin. Without a miracle, they would lose everything, and so Lily, the beautiful daughter, became Margaret's one hope. If Lily could marry well, the family might survive another year. Sarah, no matter how useful, could not save them. That was why the entire household woke with excitement when the news arrived. Jacob Thornton is coming to seek a wife. Jacob was known far and wide. A mountain man in his late 30s, tall and strong, with a reputation for surviving winters that killed lesser men. He trapped, traded with tribes, and owned a cabin near the Hoback River. He was not rich, but he was respected, steady, and dependable. Everyone believed he wanted a practical woman for the wilderness, but even practical men noticed beauty, so naturally folks assumed Lily would be his choice. The Hartwells hurried. Morning stars scrubbed the floors. Margaret cooked stew and cornbread. Lily dressed in her best blue calico and styled her hair until it shone. Sarah? Nobody called her in from the yard. She was outside splitting kindling, her braid half loose, her dress faded from years of work. Exactly where they expected her to be. Late afternoon brought the steady sound of hooves. Jacob rode up on a strong buckskin horse, tall in the saddle, quiet in his movements. He looked like a man carved from the mountains themselves, lean and weathered, with a calm seriousness that made everyone straighten. Margaret greeted him with warmth. He nodded politely, removed his hat, and joined them under the cottonwood for supper. Lily smiled her sweetest smile, leaning lightly forward to catch the evening light. "Life in the mountains must be exciting," she said in a soft voice. "It's work," Jacob replied evenly. "Cold, hard, mostly lonely." Lily laughed like he had made a clever joke, but he did not return the smile. He did not flirt. He barely looked at her. Then Jacob's eyes drifted away. They landed on Sarah. She was across the yard carrying an armful of wood. Her limp was visible. Dirt marked her dress. Her braid was coming undone, but she worked with quiet focus, stacking the wood neatly as she always did. "Who is that?" Jacob asked. Margaret blinked, surprised by the interest. "That is Sarah, my eldest." Jacob repeated the name under his breath. "Sarah!" For a long moment he watched her. Something in his expression shifted, as if he had made a decision right then and there. He set down his spoon, stood, looked straight at Margaret. "Ma'am, I came seeking a wife. A woman who is steady and knows work. After what I have seen, I would like permission to court Sarah." The world seemed to stop. Lily's smile vanished. Margaret froze. Sarah stood still, wood chips in her hair, staring in stunned confusion. Jacob Thornton, the mountain man every woman hoped to impress, had chosen the sister nobody ever looked at. Not the beauty, the forgotten one. Sarah stood rooted to the ground with the wood still in her arms. Her mind tried to understand what had just happened. Jacob Thornton, a man every woman in the territory would gladly look at twice, had asked to court her. Not Lily, the sister everyone praised. Not the beauty. He had asked for her, the woman who lived in shadows and worked until her back ached. Margaret Hartwell finally found her voice. It came out strained and thin. "I beg your pardon, Mr. Thornton." Jacob did not look away from Sarah. "I would like permission to court your eldest daughter, ma'am, if she agrees to it." Lily's face twisted in a flash of emotion. Shock first, then disbelief, and finally a deep anger that made her look almost unfamiliar. Her eyes narrowed, as if she could erase Jacob's words by glaring hard enough. Sarah whispered the only question she could manage. "Why?" Jacob walked toward her with slow, steady steps. He stopped a short distance in front of her. She lifted her chin to see him better. He did not study her limp. He did not stare at her birthmark. He looked straight at her eyes. "Because you work hard," he said. "Because you do not pretend to be something you are not. Because you do not break under pressure. Because you are steady." Her heart hammered. She had never heard anyone describe her that way. Useful, yes. Reliable, yes. But steady carried a different weight. "I am not pretty," she said quietly. "Pretty does not survive a mountain winter," Jacob replied. "Pretty does not keep a cabin standing. Pretty fades. Strength does not." Lily winced as if she had been struck. Margaret looked torn between confusion and fear for what this meant for their future. Jacob turned to Margaret. "So, ma'am, may I have your permission to court Sarah?" Margaret swallowed. This was not her hope. Lily had been her plan, her ticket to saving the failing trading post. But refusing a capable mountain man would be foolish. "If Sarah agrees," she said slowly, "you have my permission." Jacob returned his attention to Sarah. "Well." Sarah felt her knees weaken. No man had ever picked her when Lily was in the room. She had lived her whole life believing she would remain unseen. But Jacob waited with steady patience. "I am willing," she said. Jacob nodded once. "I will return in 3 days. We will talk more then." He mounted his horse, gave Sarah one last look, and rode out of the clearing. No one spoke until the hoofbeats faded. Lily spun around and stormed inside, her silence more dangerous than shouting. Margaret followed, looking shaken and unsure. Sarah remained alone in the yard. The wood slipped from her hands and dropped to the ground. She felt like the air around her had shifted in a way she could not explain. That night she lay awake, staring at the rough ceiling of the small room she shared with Lily. Her sister's sharp, angry breathing filled the space. Lily had not spoken one word. The silence felt heavy, pressed down like a stone on Sarah's chest. Why had Jacob chosen her? It made no sense. Men did not choose women like her. Men chose women like Lily, women who drew admiration with every step. Maybe Jacob only needed someone to work, someone who would not make demands, someone who would keep a home without expecting affection. The thought stung, but it did not surprise her. Morning brought cold air and a quiet sky. Sarah rose before sunrise as always. She tended the fire, heated water, and prepared the morning meal. When Margaret entered, she studied Sarah for a long time. "You understand what you agreed to," she said. I agreed to let him court me, Sarah replied, not to marry him. He will expect marriage. Mountain men do not court for pastime. I know, Sarah said, and I also know he did not ask for Lily. Do you know why he did not ask for Lily? Margaret asked, almost offended. Sarah shook her head. No, and I am not going to question it too much. But she could see fear creeping into her mother's face. Losing Lily's chance meant losing hope of saving the post. 3 days later, Jacob returned exactly when he promised. He did not go to the front. He rode around the back where Sarah was tending her herb garden. He watched her for a moment. Need to talk, he said. Sarah stood and brushed soil from her hands. All right, somewhere private. They walked to the creek behind the post. The river rushed with melted snow, loud and wild. Jacob stood with his hands on his belt, staring at the water before speaking. I live rough, he said. My cabin is small. Winters are brutal. Sometimes I leave for weeks. You will be alone for long stretches. Life up there is hard and dangerous. I am not offering comfort or ease. I understand, Sarah said. No, he replied. You think you do, but you do not. So I am saying it plainly. She waited. I cannot offer love, he said. I do not have it in me, but I can offer honesty, respect, partnership, a shared life. If we suit each other after some time, we marry. If we do not, we end it. Sarah watched the rushing water before she spoke. That is fair. It is more than many women receive. Are you still willing? Jacob asked. Yes, she said softly. I am willing. Jacob reached into his shirt and held out a folded piece of paper. Read this when you are alone, he said. Then he mounted his horse and rode off. After he vanished from sight, Sarah unfolded the note. The handwriting was rough and strong. Your absence bothers me more than your presence should. J.T. Sarah pressed the note to her chest. For the first time in her life, something warm, fragile, and full of promise began to grow inside her. The days after Jacob's visit felt different around the trading post. Sarah moved through her chores with a quiet awareness that something in her life had shifted. Lily moved through the post like a storm cloud, silent and sharp. Margaret watched Sarah with tight lips, her eyes full of questions she never voiced. Jacob visited often during the next few weeks, not for long talks or sweet company. He showed up with purpose. He brought fresh meat, checked if they needed supplies, fixed loose boards on the porch, repaired the chicken pen, and mended tools without being asked. He did not speak like a courting man. He spoke like a partner, learning the rhythm of her world. They talked while they worked. He split wood while she hung laundry. She gathered herbs while he checked the horses. The conversation flowed easier when their hands were busy. He told her about life in the high country, the storms that hit without warning, the silence that could feel like a living thing, the beauty of sunrise over untouched snow. She told him about keeping the post alive, about balancing accounts, about the herbs she grew, about the quiet life she had learned to accept. You know more than most men, Jacob said once as she sorted plants. Books taught me a lot. Morning Star taught me the rest, she said. You read those medical books? He asked. Yes. Enough to understand the plants and their uses, she replied. That is rare, he said. Useful. Little by little, something subtle began to grow between them. Not love, not yet, but trust, respect, familiarity. He left small gifts without mentioning them. A good knife for her herbs, a pouch with her initials burned into the leather. A length of red ribbon left neatly folded on her table. She returned the gesture. Warm bread left at his camp. Socks she knitted. His shirts mended with careful stitches. Lily watched it all with rising fury. Her spiteful comments grew sharper. Mountain men do not expect much, she said one night. Good thing for some women. Sarah ignored her. It was easier than letting the words sink in. But one evening, Lily went too far. Jacob sat at the table helping Margaret with her failing accounts. Lily sewed by the fire, her face bright and sweet, but her eyes dark with envy. "Mr. Thornton," Lily said gently, "I am curious. What is it about someone practical that appeals to you? Do you not want something beautiful to come home to?" Jacob looked up slowly. "A useful blade is worth more than a pretty one that breaks," he said. "Dependable is better than decorative." Lily's face went pale. She stood abruptly and left the room. Margaret followed her. Sarah remained at the table with Jacob. The fire crackled. The wind sighed through the cracks of the post. Jacob looked at Sarah. "Your mother is in deep debt," he said. "I know," she answered. "She counted on Lily to marry well," he added. "I know that too," Sarah said quietly. "Did she make a mistake letting you agree to court me?" Jacob asked. Sarah lifted her eyes. "We will not know until time passes." Jacob stood and moved closer to her. "Sarah, this thing between us will not be flowers and sweet words. I am not that man." "I stopped dreaming of that long ago," she said. "But it will be real," he said. "That is enough," she replied. He took her hand for the first time. His touch was gentle, almost careful. It felt like a promise she had never expected to receive. 2 weeks later, a traveling preacher arrived in the area. Jacob came riding hard up the path and found Sarah gathering herbs. "The preacher is here," he said. "If you are willing, we could marry today." Her breath caught. "Today." "Tomorrow he will be gone," Jacob said. "Next one will not come for months. But you can say no, you have that choice." "I do not need more time," Sarah said. "Today is fine." The ceremony happened under the cottonwood tree. The preacher read quickly as he was used to frontier weddings. Margaret stood tight-lipped. Lily wore a black dress as if attending a funeral. A few trappers watched out of curiosity. Jacob wore clean buckskins. Sarah wore her best gray dress with her mother's old shawl. Jacob spoke his vows with steady certainty. Sarah spoke hers with a trembling voice but clear heart. When the preacher told Jacob to kiss his bride, he hesitated only a moment before cupping Sarah's face gently and kissing her. It was soft and brief, but it was real. They rode to Jacob's cabin after the wedding. The place was small but strong, built from hand-cut logs and set in a quiet meadow. A creek ran nearby, singing over stones. "This is our home," Jacob said. Inside, the cabin was one room. A bed in the corner, a small table, shelves full of tools. Everything was neat and organized. The fire was already burning. He had prepared it for her arrival. They settled into married life awkwardly but respectfully. They shared the bed, keeping space between them. They worked side by side. Slowly, the distance faded. Then Sarah fell sick with fever. A deep, burning fever that nearly killed her. She collapsed one afternoon by the creek, and Jacob carried her to the bed with pure fear in his eyes. "You were not a burden," he said when she apologized. "You are my wife." For 5 days he never left her side. He fed her water when she could not lift her head. He cooled her skin with wet cloths. He whispered to her when he thought she could not hear. "Do not leave me," he said. "Do not die on me." On the 5th day the fever broke. She woke to find him asleep beside her bed, holding her hand like a lifeline. "Do not ever do that again," he said when he woke. "I will try," she whispered. "You scared me," he said. "Why?" she asked. "Because somewhere in these weeks you stopped being convenient and started being mine," he said. Her breath trembled. "I am yours," she said, "and you are mine." Life in the mountains shaped their bond stronger with each passing season, winter storms, long nights, shared hardship, shared work. Slowly the space in their bed closed. Slowly his touch softened. Slowly love grew without announcements or fancy words. When spring returned, Sarah discovered she was with child. The fear that she may not bear children was proven wrong. Jacob held her tightly and shook with relief she had never seen in him. Their first daughter arrived that winter, loud and healthy. Jacob cried when he held her. The cabin grew fuller with time. More children, more laughter, more life. Years passed. Lily faded into the world somewhere far away. Sarah became the woman of the mountains, respected and seen. One day, Sarah found the small note Jacob had given her at the start. She read the words again. "Your absence bothers me more than your presence should." She added her own line beneath it. "And your presence became my home." Her family laughed in the yard. Jacob taught their son to trap. Their daughter carried firewood. The mountains stood tall around them like silent guardians. Sarah had once been the sister nobody wanted. But she became the woman one man chose with his whole heart. The woman who built a life rooted in truth instead of glitter. Real love never shouts. It grows in quiet moments. And she had found it.